Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 149, Roy Coughlan, a tale of resilience, entrepreneurship, and becoming a podcast coach. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Roy Coughlan. Did I pronounce that right, Roy?
Perfect.
All right. Welcome to the show, Roy.
Thank you very much for having me on, Matt.
You're so quiet. Is this going to be a very relaxing podcast, Roy?
No, we'll get excited later.
Okay, we'll get excited later. Anyway, so Roy, you do podcasting. So that's exciting. How am I doing so far?
Excellent.
He is a podcast coach. He's got a lot of podcasts. I think from our previous conversation, we were talking about you're working on your sixth one or something.
Correct.
And so you're doing a lot. So there's a lot we can learn from you. How long have you been doing podcasting?
6 years now.
6 years. All right. So a few years under your belt. How many episodes?
Over 1,200.
1,200. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But anyway, so the first thing we do when we have a guest on this show is we learn a little bit about you. We learn about your journey, your origin story. How was Roy made? How was he forged? And how has he become this amazing podcast coach that he is today? So that's where we start. So with that, I'm going to kind of hand it over to you if you want to share your journey, your origin story, and the short version, long version, whatever you feel like today.
Cool. So I'm originally from Cork in Ireland, which is in the south of Ireland. It's the biggest county area and the second in population. And I was entrepreneurial from a young age. So at 9, I was washing cars, delivering leaflets. At 11, I started a newspaper round. So I was basically getting newspapers brought to me by the vendor and went around the neighbourhoods. And I'd done that up to college. When I was 14, with the money from the newspapers, bought a lawnmower and then went around cutting grass. And with that, I used to have people helping me. I'd give them a third. I'd say a third for you, third for me, and a third for the upkeep of the machine. So, I wasn't
nice.
Yeah, I wasn't silly enough to give half of it away at that stage. At 18, I started buying and selling motorbikes. So I was big into motorbikes, and I enjoyed that kind of. I studied construction, economics, and management in school, and then later that was a diploma, and later done another diploma in applied project management. I started working for mechanical contractor. They're actually the biggest mechanical contractor in Ireland, and I basically worked all around Ireland. First job, I was kind of like a CAD technician, just doing all the drawings, and the next job they made me run a job. That was worth about €1 million, and then after that I was just running a load, became like contracts manager, running like 10 jobs, and love that. Was with one company for 8.5 years, then became a regional manager with another company for about 3.5 years. And during that time, I had set up one company doing web design, something that you do, but I didn't do it right, so it didn't really work. But it's still
you didn't do it right.
Still, the entrepreneur was in me, And then
Nice.
I started dating a Polish girl, and when I visited her parents it was a place called Łódź in Poland, which I am currently living in, and I was like, property's kind of okay here, and I'd bought a few properties in Ireland and basically decided to buy a few. Then I said, more people would probably like this, so set up a company, and I called it Pol Era. Pol for Polish, Era is the Irish for Ireland, and started getting first Irish investors, and I had no intention of actually moving out. And I got a lot of Irish investors. I was doing things like BNI, that's how I got a lot of the clients. And then I started getting English investors. But the relationship finished. We were like 2 years together, and so it kind of worked out. We still said, okay, let's keep this going. You're in Poland, I'm in Ireland, and I'd come over kind of, 1 week a month. So it was working okay. We still had a kind of, respectful to each other. And I went deep. Like, I released equity in my Irish properties, started buying commercial properties, sites to develop, buildings. And then she sent an email saying, basically, I've set up a new company and I'm no longer working with Roy and I can do everything.
Wow.
And I went, oh! So I kind of realised at that stage I'd lose everything unless I kind of moved over, because she wasn't going to look after my stuff. And she didn't have the experience anyway that I did, because I was working in construction all my life. So I moved over. It was kind of a bit, not something that I planned. But as it happened, the economy kind of tanked at kind of not long after, because in Ireland they were building something like 90,000 houses and then it dropped to 4,000. So all of these construction projects and everything just stopped. So most people started emigrating to Australia and Canada, and so probably would have been in trouble anyway. So kind of like a lot of people are saying, hey, all the Poles are going to Ireland and England and you're going in the opposite direction, and sometimes that's good. So it turned out that it was at the time decent. So I started building all these things. I set up a load of companies, a lot of syndicates. I was building 30 apartments, houses, and like some of the syndicates, like the people that were with me were like the big boys. They were worth 20 million, and I was like, this is good. I'm getting good experience, and building all these projects. And the crash happened. And I was actually doing well, because I was doing renovations. I had about 10 people working for me. I renovated a couple of hundred properties and managing them. So I realised at the start it wasn't just selling people the property. It was like, oh, you actually need it fitted out. Okay, I can do that. You need it renovated, was obviously, and managed. So a business kind of started appearing without even thinking about it. And that was doing very well. Yeah. So when they started losing their property, I thought, this is only a little hiccup. It's going to come right. And it didn't come right. Like they all, and I was like thinking, every kind of entrepreneur is kind of optimistic. Like I was like, I'll be grand. And I started putting my money into like a commercial, 150 grand into this. And I'll just increase my share if they don't pay me. And then they all kind of, lost everything. So I kind of went, and I went to the bank with a commercial. I said, listen, I'm without missing a payment. I said, look, I'm going to get into trouble here. I need you to help me. I'm going to split the site up. I'm going to do this. Yeah, grand, no problem. Like, as soon as the payment missed, they were in with the bailiff straight away, and they destroyed it. They told the tenants, don't pay me, and basically pay them. Then they stopped paying the electricity and the water. So all the tenants actually moved out. And then people just went in and started robbing stuff, and they destroyed a perfectly good property. So that was one of them. Yeah. And through all of this, I was the president, so I had saved everything. But then once one fell, they all fell. And usually with a limited liability, it's like, oh, I've lost everything. Let's move on. But in Poland, and my accountant and my solicitors didn't tell me you're personally liable when you're the president of a company. And I was president of a few companies. So instead of kind of I had made about $1 million, when I was kind of going out there. I was looking at being around 5 million when everything was done. And basically I was minus 5 million that I was personally liable for. So, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I actually said that as well. I was like, how did this happen? I didn't do anything wrong. And
yeah, that is an extreme example of where things go south. Sideways, or whatever you want to say. That's not good.
These things happen. So it's kind of like by seeing this, I saw how corrupt the whole system was. That commercial, they were in cahoots. The bailiff was in cahoots with a valuer. So it was, I suppose I'll talk in US dollars instead of Polish zloty, but it was worth over $1 million. And the way that they do the auction is that the first auction is at 75%, the second auction is at 50%. So if nobody buys it at 75%, they just drop it just to get it sold. And the valuer valued the property at less than $500,000. So they intentionally don't. Then they do a flash sale, they actually, as if it's advertised, they take a screenshot of it so they can prove that this was advertised, and nobody turns up because nobody knows about it. And then they try to buy it themselves in the second one. So they would have got it at a property that was probably 1.25 million, they would have got it for $250,000. But as it turned out, I got somebody to actually buy it, and it just removed the debt from me and everything, because there was a mortgage on that.
Right.
And that washed its face. And then there was others. I just kind of learned things as I went along, and I found, accountants don't really have your back, and solicitors don't have your back either. It's kind of, you kind of look after yourself, and it's a hard time, and it's like, you're probably going, we're supposed to be talking about podcasting, how is this going? And it actually leads.
Oh, this is way more interesting.
And I think it's something that people should be aware of. Like, I had 4 houses. We had built 4 houses, and I dropped the prices so that just pay it off. We'd pay off the debt and everything, and I couldn't sell it. At the auction at 75%, it was actually more expensive than what I was actually trying to sell them at. So, it showed. Yeah. Basically, what happened is they were throwing money with anybody with a pulse at one stage, and they turned off the tap intentionally all around the world. So, like, I knew people. One guy, there's a friend of mine. He's actually a professor, and his wife was an accountant, and they were getting their second property. They had a 50% down payment, and they couldn't get a loan. So, when you've got people with careers like that, and a 50%, most people wouldn't have a 50%. So it just showed they weren't lending anymore, which in turn meant I couldn't sell properties that I was after building. It was just a bad cycle that you get caught in it. But, so they intentionally done that to people all over the world. So the 4 houses that we built, basically, I didn't go in because a guy tipped me off, don't go in there because they'll be asking, is there somebody representing the company there? So I didn't, but I had people in there. And they bribed people in the room when they were buying the properties. So I don't know who done it, but so they paid the people in the room. So, like, obviously that was done through the bailiffs to their own cronies to buy it. So that's going on, not just in Poland. That's going on in the States, in the UK, in Ireland. I've seen it. And so I went to an event, and the event was in Mexico. A couple of years later, when I cleared the decks, obviously a couple of years of hard things, but it cleared it, so I got everything resolved. And the event was, what's your quest? And I was like, okay, I've seen the bailiffs being corrupt, I've seen the judges being corrupt, I've seen the bankers being corrupt. This needs to be exposed. So that was my mission. I'm going to write about this. And it was kind of the book I called The Awakening. I actually have it there, but I didn't publish it. I just printed about 20 copies, and I got it in people's hands, and about 10 of them said, you'll be whacked for what you're exposing here. And I was like,
you're saying too much.
Exactly. Yes. And I really didn't care. But then my mom said, what about your children? And I went, okay.
Yeah, what about?
Yeah. So, but no, I think people are way more kind of aware of all the fraud and everything. But I was kind of ahead of the curve. But also at that event, there was 2 brilliant speakers. And I hated public speaking. So even though I said earlier I was running jobs and everything, the one part that I detested was public speaking. My voice would break. Even in school, I was very nervous if you have to stand up in front of the class. When I was 18, go to the bar, I would give my friend the money to get my round. I was too nervous to even go up to the bar. That was just...
Okay.
Yeah, so, you go... If you're allowed to go back in time, I'd go back and beat myself up for that kind of carry on. But, it's kind of... It's just... So I said, okay, I have to overcome this, because if I'm going to be trying to get my message out, I need to be a good speaker. So I came back. Right. I joined the Toastmasters Club, and I actually even tell you how shy I was. I had to bring people along with me to join this club. And I said, this is brilliant. And they said, yeah, this is fantastic, but we don't have time to do it. And I was too shy to go back. And the only reason I joined the Toastmasters Club is a new one was being formed a few months later. And I said, okay, everybody's going to be new. Joined it. Then eventually joined the other one. Formed my own club, an International Entrepreneurs Club in the morning. Then I became a coach. I done open mic comedy, open mic TEDx. I just done every competition, got into the final of 5 countries. So I went from one extreme to the other, and it's a kind of, the message on that is, don't ever tell yourself a story that you can't do something, and that's not why you're not doing it. It's like when you have the reason to do something, you can do anything. And I think with businesses as well, whether you're an employee or anything, public speaking is something that you should just say, yeah, I need to do this. This is going to help my career. It's going to help everything I do. So I went to another event, and it was like starting a podcast. And I was like, it was like a workshop on it at an event. And I was like, I never even thought of that. I listened to podcasts. Oh, that's a good idea. So the first one that I done was the speaking podcast, because I knew so many people from the competitions. I said it'd be easy to get guests. And it was always about the awakening, was always kind of, But I said, I have to be careful with this. I need to learn what I'm doing. So first was the speaking, but then there was the meditation. So when I lost everything, meditation helped me. It was kind of a 6-phase meditation process. It was kind of like what you're grateful for. Because when you lose everything, I mean, I lost my 3 houses in Ireland, lost my personal belongings. They took everything. It was like, it was left. I was lucky I had the shirt on my back, kind of thing. It was kind of like, he's down on his knees, let's just take everything. And that's how it is. So through the meditation, it's kind of like, okay, just think of what things you're grateful for. Because when you're grateful for things, you start attracting them instead of being kind of negative. And the other thing was the act of forgiveness. So like there was even builders that had done stuff that was like fraudulent as well. And it was kind of, you just have anger in yourself. But what happens is nobody else is thinking of this anger. It's just you. So you're poisoning your own cells by actually thinking negatively the whole time. So I learned to forgive, and it was like some is easy and others is a bit harder. But how I got rid of the hardest ones, like the ones that really kind of, like all the investors, they just ran. They left me, like, oh, something's broken. Yeah, good luck to you. And nobody actually helped me out. They didn't even think, okay, let's strategize how to do this. They all just ran away. And, it is what it is. Because I understand they had their own pain as well. They were after losing everything, which they weren't expecting. But how I overcame the whole lot is I brought the person back to the child. I said, we have unconditional love for a child. Nobody hates a baby when they see it. It's always kind of like, oh, So I was like, it's like that person.
So you visualize them as a child.
Yeah, as a baby.
That's how you forgive them.
Yeah, and it's like, because I know external influences have created them the person that they are. So whether they had alcoholic parents, they were abused, whatever, there's always something. Got into the wrong circle, maybe their parents didn't kind of watch who they were hanging out with because they were too busy working. You just don't know. And by doing that, I was actually able to forgive him, which in turn wasn't forgiven. It was me that was actually releasing, and from that then was able to kind of move on. So I realised the benefit of meditation, but the one that I was listening to disappeared. Then there was other ones became paid. When you're watching every penny, you kind of don't be paying for things like that. So I said, okay, I'm going to create a meditation process, a meditation podcast, and it's basically going to be free. And I'll have all different types of meditation and breath work. So because I know so many people from different events that I went to around the world, have contact with a load of them, they've all given me decent stuff. So I've meditations from 1 minute up to 2 hours, because people say, I don't have time to meditate. So I say, okay, there's one for 1 minute for you, so you're grand. And it's kind of explaining as well, because some people think you have to sit in a certain way and have blank. That doesn't happen. And it's kind of, when you hear people kind of talking different ways, it kind of makes, okay, I'll try this. Because a lot of people say, I tried meditation, but it doesn't work for me. They tried it once or twice. And I said, that's like eating. You eat it once or twice and then you're grand. So you have to kind of keep doing it. Doesn't mean that you have to spend hours doing it. You can just kind of, and I think more be present as well, present in everything you're doing. So that was the meditation one. The next one then was the learn Polish. So as I mentioned, I went to Poland. Like, some people are brilliant with languages. Yeah. I'm not. My brother, he's brilliant. He's a brilliant musician. I remember I took guitar lessons. The guy used to be looking out the window waiting for the hour to end. I was so bad. So that didn't work. And it was the same with kind of languages. My brother moved to Holland, fluent in 2 years. And for me, it wasn't my thing. I'm kind of more entrepreneurial, and so languages wasn't the best thing. So I was trying Rosetta Stone, Pimsleur, all these different things. I said, okay, I'll start maybe listening to a podcast. And the only ones that were there were scripted or only in Polish. And it's like, I can't learn like that. So I started creating it. It was with my ex-wife, who actually was my teacher at one stage. That's how we met. But we've got a great relationship because we have a child together. And basically, I was really doing it for myself. I never thought it would be that kind of popular. But it's currently got over 2 million between the audio and the video.
Wow.
and one mistake that I made, that I will tell people whether they're actually kind of in their journey of podcasting or thinking of starting, I just took a crappy picture, to be honest with you. I set up a tripod, took a picture of the two of us and got a really poor graphic. And that's number one. Yeah. The graphic, when I was number one, when I was ahead of Duolingo and ahead of BBC and all this, and that's the screenshot that I have of it. So I eventually kind of invested and got a decent shot. So I encourage people, get a decent picture and a decent graphic, because and make sure people can actually look at it and be attracted to it. Because what happens is a lot of the time when people are creating a logo or graphic, they do it on a big screen and they're looking at it and going, oh yeah, that looks brilliant. But the reality is, if you're scrolling through Spotify or you're scrolling through iTunes, it's a tiny little graphic, and what does it look like then? And some people have a load of text and everything, and you just have to say, okay, what does it look like small, because that's what's going to grab people's attention. Just to be conscious of that. So that was that one. Next one was the awakening. So eventually got around to the one that I wanted to do, kind of exposing fraud and corruption, but with solutions, because there's a lot of people talking about all the kind of negativity going on, and I was like, I'm more solution based. I just said, okay, we're all disheartened with what's going on in the world. How can we actually make it better? It's good to let people, because you kind of have to let a lot of people know what's actually going on and why I have this thought process and how I actually can change. Because I think a lot of people, even when you bring them true facts, they still, I think the ego gets in the way. So, but I never attack people. It's like, a lot of people do that. It's like they go into arguments. I mean, I've got friends that believe in all different things, and we just laugh at each other. They think I'm crazy. I think they're great, but we do it in a joking manner. But most people can't do that. There's houses fall out because of different beliefs. So it's like, I try to never be aggressive on it and just kind of lay out the facts and why I think this way, and what, with the guests. I mean, I've had a lot of famous guests: Mickey Willis, Dr. Peter McCullough, David Icke.
Really?
And it's just interesting to share that kind of stuff. So with that, and I think it's probably important as well for kind of people that might go into stuff like that. Censorship is fairly, they don't want you to be exposing this stuff. So I got kicked off YouTube. I got Linktree. They removed me of 3 of the channels because I had links to this on a few of the others. LinkedIn removed me for a week. I had to grovel to get that back because I kind of used that.
Even LinkedIn
did.
Oh my gosh. But I didn't know people got kicked off.
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
but I groveled and I got back on that one because I said, this is important. I use this for business. So it's like, eventually, but so I have to be careful when you post. But it's just a case of even, say, shadow banning and everything. I mean, people will say, oh, there's shadow banning. But like one of my friends, you'll always have, you probably know that yourself, you'll always have a few supporters and you see him giving the thumbs up and just a comment and stuff. There's always the fellas that have your back. And so one guy was like, he realised, he said, I know I gave a thumbs up to that one. And he said he went back to all of them. All of his thumbs up had been removed. So that's the level that they go.
Remove the thumbs up?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, that's the extent that they go to. So that was that was that one. And then I created the crypto podcast, and it was kind of the same thing. I was like, looking at getting into a few crypto businesses, and it's like, very interested in the topic, but I saw a lot of fraud in this kind of thing as well. And I didn't want to incorporate it into the awakening because I said, not everybody's into blockchain technology. And if I bring this in, I could lose a percentage of my audience because they were like, I don't like this. And I was like, so that's why I actually created the crypto pod.
Spun it off.
Yeah. And that's been, I mean, that's currently 1%. The other 4 have been in the top half. And you mentioned that I'm starting a new one, and I'm hoping to actually start the recording this week. I've got the logo done already, and it's a pod fodder. And how I got it is one of my clients, because I help people get on shows, and I got them on over 20 shows in a month. And I mean, I actually agreed on something like 47 within a month period. And he said, "You're the pod fodder," and I just thought, "Oh, that's cool." So,
a pod fodder, that's pretty good.
So I've created a logo that's kind of like, it's like the pod fodder, the hand and the strings coming down when you see the logo of them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I've actually a hand holding the earphones and the wires coming down, and then I have a mic over the mouth as if like keep it quiet kind of thing. So
nice. Love it.
And I'm basically going to do like a 5-minute one. It's like, because, I mean, you must know that as well. You'll be probably checking a few different, there's a lot of them doing this where they're trying to, give you the tips and everything. But what's happening is they're talking for 30 minutes or an hour, and you just want the gold. And, they're just fluffing. Like we all were watching all the times and everything. So I said, I'm just going to give one thing on each show, and then also reach out to other people that they can send in the video. I'll have a form that they can do it. Whereas they have something, because I've been on a few shows that actually have done that, and a lot of them are like insisting, oh, you have to have over 10,000 downloads, and you have to have this, and you have that, and like they're not even getting that themselves, you know. And it's like, you know, it's like, and it doesn't mean, the way I see it is, anybody has, like, even if you've 30 viewers, or everybody's got something that they can share. And I think, like, so I'm not going to limit it. I'm not going to have that kind of.
Thank you. Make me feel better. I still have stuff to share. I really do. Yeah.
And that's actually an important one as well, because like no matter what the person's number is, because some people, like you've probably heard a load of people, they get to 3, they're gone, 10, they're gone. And I think sometimes they're comparing themselves with the people that have the 1 million views, you know, and they're looking at the Joe Rogan. Whereas if you go into a room to do a speech, like if you were talking in front of 20 people, you'd be delighted with yourself. And you'd come back next week, and then there could be 2 gone and 3 more or something like that. And you should be happy and just build from there. Just make sure you have people that are coming back constantly. Whereas people think, oh, I need the massive downloads. It will come.
I'll just speak on that for a second. You know, so this is something else. So I've had my agency for we're going into our 6th year. We made it. Got through number 5. But for a couple of years, that's about 3 years now, we've been doing, you know, I started getting serious about social media like 3 years ago. And all of our favorite people is Gary Vee. He's out there. He's the guy. He's doing the social media stuff, right? He just is prolific, but he's got a huge team that helps him. But so I have a VA that helps me with all our distribution, helps me put together content every day, and work with her, and I've been doing that for almost 3 years. She's been with me, and but one of the things, especially early on, we would always, I know she would be like comparing us to, like, you know, or she knew I liked Gary, or there was other people out there that have all these, you know. They get every post, they have, you know, tens of thousands of likes, or they have just these huge audiences, and it just came down to the point where it's like, I just like, we can't. We're not Gary Vee. We're never going to be Gary Vee. We're not going to. We're not him. Matt is not Gary. But what it comes down to is the impact you actually have, even if you have a smaller audience, the impact and the results you get. Like, every time we celebrate, every time we get a new client or referral or whatever through LinkedIn or whatever we're doing, and I always, you know, will remind her, and she's going to be listening to this, it's working. It works. We're doing fine. It's going to be different for like every single business, what size you are and stuff. It's not necessarily the impression of how popular you are. It's not a popularity game. Is it working for you and for your business, and is it getting the results? I'm perfectly happy. I've been showing up for 3 years on social media, and just, you know, every day we post content, and that's our baseline. We got our baseline. This is what we do. Could we scale it up over time? We will. But yeah, so you can't compare yourself to these other people that are, you know, maybe are even better looking than me. Anyway, so is that your whole story? Did you just share the whole thing? We landed on, I actually think it's amazing you're landing on the Podfather, because you've earned it. Like, if you're going to have a 6th one, and you're going to take the 7th day off, I assume, you're going to hit the sixth one, it's going to be the Podfather. But if that's your story, we've landed on it. I just want to say there's a lot to unpack there. And along the way, I loved listening to that, because it's just such an arc of a story, and there's so much in it. And while you're in it, like, there was questions I had, but you answered them kind of yourself. Like, one of the things that, like, early on, you know, and I've asked others, because obviously you're not alone with running into some failure, or something happens and your business fails, or somebody, you know, steals stuff from you. All that stuff happens. in business, even to me. But I always want to ask how did you cope with that? How did you overcome that? Because that's a hard place to be. And I have I don't think I can say that on the scale of what you did that I have these things happen to me. But I've been in business for decades, and I was in the contracting business, actually, kind of construction, remodeling, painting and repair. Matt's painting and repair, and MPR remodeling. But in that business, that was a nightmare for me. I had so many guys that were out there trying to take advantage of me, get work for free. Or I even had, it's a whole story, but I had somebody actually steal my crew. Like, they were on some job site I didn't even know about. I'm like, okay, well, they used to work for me. So there's a lot of bad things have happened with me too, but those things happen in business, unfortunately. But it's that how did you come out of that? Like, how did you where did you find your positivity? And you were talking about the meditation, and I think that's a huge thing, being able to kind of let those things go and work through those things. And in that time, thinking back at it, like when you were in that with the property and all that stuff was happening, and the crash and all that stuff, what is kind of like the big thing, or what was the turning point, or what was your low, and then how did you come out of that? What was kind of that process?
I suppose the low was my personal house, and it really didn't. I kind of knew it was happening, and it was like, because my parents just go there and collect the post and stuff like that, and my mom had said that my dad just broke down crying, and that hurt me more than losing the house. And it was like, that was a low. I was like, I was angry, because just the way they done it, like they sold all the properties without even giving me information about it. The whole lot was fraudulent. I've had over 100 court cases, and it was like, you're inside in court and you're listening, and like, I'll give you an example. One woman went up, she had a piece of paper, she was shaking, terrified. She said, my husband's after dying from cancer from the stress of this. He goes, very sorry, but it is what it is, kind of thing. Like, rule in favour of the courts and or of the banks, and plus interest plus penalties. Another person says, we got KPMG and proved that they overcharged us 15,000 interest. And as it turns out, from a guest that I've had on, they've done that to everybody. Like, the interest, they was all calculating more interest than they should have paid. And they were like, when was that? Yeah. That was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I should have took it up with them then. Bang, rule in favour of the banks plus interest. And like, when you're hearing this, you're going, what? Nobody. Like, it's not like a case of normally you've the plaintiff, defendant, and each has their solicitor. This is like I was in the High Court, and you had like maybe 100 or maybe more, but most people weren't turning up. There was just all these like barristers, which are high end. Some of them are charging 10 grand, a day. And it was like bang, bang, bang. And mine actually went through the case. So they created a thing called an affidavit, which I didn't know what an affidavit was. That was kind of the level that I went through. I had to ask somebody, what's an affidavit? So it's a sworn statement.
You're learning as you go.
A sworn statement saying exactly. And I was like, this is all lies. So I replied, but because I knew of all the corruption and everything, they couldn't respond, but they're supposed to. And it just kept going on and on to the next one. So one judge said, why haven't you responded? Awarded me, I think it was something like €1,400 travel expenses, because I was coming from Poland to Dublin to go to this, and it was a case of Dublin, Cork, where my parents were, and then back up to Dublin for the case. And it was just things that I didn't need. And it was like, so I was convinced I was going to win. And just on the day, different judges all the time, I just listened to him, and I was like, so he started off with my case, and he was like, this is going to take too long. So he was like 10 minutes in and stopped and just went around. Then he was doing it at lunch. No, it's taking too long. So I was there from about 9 or half 9 or something like that till around 6 o'clock or something like that. So I was exhausted. I'm listening to all the other cases, and you can't disappear, because then they'll call the case if you're not there. Rule in your favour. So what it was is, I had an offer of 200,000 on a property, and I said full and final settlement to him, and it was like 220 on the mortgage. It was a property that was worth 400,000 dropped to 125. I mean, that just shows the craziness that actually went on. So they wouldn't accept that, but they sold it for something like 170, and then came after me for the excess. And so I was fighting that, and I lost. But then they were trying to go for the interest, and I said, listen, I've been fighting this for 2 years or a year and a half. I said, they've never responded to my affidavit or anything. And he goes, all right, fair enough. So it's the only one that actually won on the case of not having interest and not having penalties. And so I didn't have the barrister's costs, which would have made the 68,000 or whatever it was go up to probably 300. So then I was like, if I appeal, it could open it up. So I said, I'm going to go to the EU about this. And you can't go to the EU unless you actually appeal. But if you appeal, it can open up the whole thing again. And then you would have the other costs plus the new costs. So I was going 68,000 versus this. And yeah, so like just seeing that, and like with thousands of people.
You were at that point, you were just wrecked. You're like, you're angry, all these emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, was there somebody that you could turn to that was helping you, or how did you find your way out of that, like emotionally and just psychologically?
Like, I'm lucky. I've got fantastic. Like my father passed actually this year in May, but I mean, like they were so supportive. Thank you. So supportive of me that just they never judged me. They knew how it was going on, But there's some people like obviously you kind of know who your friends are and everything. But it was just a case of every day just kind of going, all right, what can I do? Putting your head down. Okay, what can I do to put bread on the table? Like,
what can I do?
Instead of like, and one thing that I was always good at is being like, if I owed money, like telling people, listen, I haven't got it now, but I guarantee I'll get you back. So even there was people that worked me sick, like you say, there was security staff and everything. When they took everything, it was like everything was gone. So they were 1 or 2 months' wages, and I just said, look, I'll get it for you. And I always took the call and said, listen, but I paid them all off. It was like I always took the call. Whereas most people, when they're under financial, they're just avoiding them. And I think that makes it worse, because when you see the call, it affects your vibration, it gives you stress and everything. You're better off just saying, listen, I haven't got it. I'm doing everything I can the minute I get it. It's not that I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to pay you everything. And just be open and honest, and don't be avoiding people. So I think that kind of helped. And it was just kind of because of my business experience. There's always opportunities arriving, and things just kind of we created another company and got investors in that get me going, and you just don't throw in the towel.
Right. That's it. I mean, and it takes a certain kind of mindset, and it's not easy for everybody to just switch to that next opportunity, but you have to do that, right? I mean, there's going to be any business, whether it's on a micro level or macro level, like the whole business or just some part of the business, things are going to go south once in a while. Things aren't going to happen, or you're going to, whether that's somebody else, doing something to you, or just things happen in general. You have to keep going. I think you said earlier, I have to overcome. You have to overcome what you're doing, because what other choice do you have? I mean, you could sit there and wallow in your, which a lot of people do. Their business failed, or something happened, or somebody did this, and then they have this bad feeling about the whole thing, and then they never move on from that, and they're stuck in their past forever, and it kind of reverberates through their whole life, and they never come out of that. But you kept going. You're like, there's more opportunities out there. That's how I'm going to solve this. I'm going to go to that next opportunity and learn the lessons, right? That's part of it too, right?
And because got
to learn your lessons.
I think this is an important one, because I've even told people that I knew were on their knees with this. Is like, when you're setting up something, you kind of have to put a brave face, and don't be telling people, because if you're forming a new company and you're trying to get investors in, you can't let them know that you're in serious, because nobody will invest in you, or nobody will want to buy whatever you're doing or whatever. Like, you just kind of, like, as if everything is grand. It's the only way you can do it, because you're only hurting yourself anyway. You can't kind of throw everything, I've lost everything, but I'm trying to do this. Like, you think people will say, yeah, I understand, but the best thing is just kind of carry on as if everything is grand. You have to have that face on you.
That's interesting. We had a guest on, Joel Solomon, and he has a very interesting story. If anyone's listening to this and you want to listen to a great podcast, Joel's got he's got 2 under his belt, but he basically, was in a scenario where he had this huge thing, this business he had all set up, and he was down in Manhattan. He had like the office space, everything set up, and his investors pulled out at the last minute. And it was a similar thing though as he tells the story, like he acted as if, and he even though he lost those investors, he still went out and he was going to these events or whatever he was doing, and just acted as if he was still in business, that he was fine, and they were like doing some mock, like he was investing and stuff like that. He's a hedge fund guy, but he just kept doing it, and it was that kind of same kind of thing where you could go to the bar and call it a day, drown your sorrows, or you just, let's figure this out. Let's act as if, or look for that next opportunity. And that's exactly what he did. He ended up finding some new investors, and he was able to kind of rebound from that. But that's what you got to do. And I think that's a huge lesson from your story. That you had a lot happen, more than most people are going to have happen to them. And here you are, smiling, doing podcasting, which is exciting.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, because when you go through something like this, you end up a lot of people never say their story. They think they feel the shame about it, and plus all the bailiffs and everything, they do all these threatening letters, and they go, yeah, we're going to publish you on the newspaper and everything. I mean, what they do is worse than the school bully, like the way they do things. And I wish I had recorded all the calls, from like credit cards and stuff like that, because they are so abusive. And like you learn your rights is one thing I would say, is kind of not go down to learn sovereignty and things like that, because you have a lot more power in yourself than actually thinking that they have control over you, because they don't. It's like they're totally fraudulent in everything they do. And if I knew then what I know now, they wouldn't have got anything. But what I say is, like, it's just like, don't ever just say I can't do this. Just look what makes you. Whether it's your child, looking at your child, whatever it is, if it's a family member, whatever, something that gives you that bit of juice, that gives you the will,
right? And
make sure you have something to grasp. Yeah,
look for that light.
Exactly.
Look around you. In all that darkness, there's some light.
Yeah, don't be looking under the bed, because then you just stay in the dark.
right. Something might grab under there. Don't look there. The lessons, and you only learn those lessons. You can't go to school to learn a lot of this stuff, right? I mean, you have to just. If you're gonna go into business, especially if you're gonna do some big things, you're gonna run into the bad guys or gals.
Exactly.
you're gonna have those bad days, and that's just part of the game. So I actually want to, we're already deep into this podcast. It's been an amazing story already. But I did want to talk about podcasting a little bit before you leave me today. As a podcaster myself, I have a lot to learn. But how is that? And you got such a great story, and I could have dug into any part of it. I love the idea that there's a whole story there, an inspiring story about how you overcame your fears about speaking, and that leads to you being a podcaster eventually. What was it about? One of the things about podcasting, what was it about podcasting that really drew you to it? Like, why are you creating more podcasts? Is this something you just found you enjoy? What do you kind of get out of it? Have you turned this into kind of a business in and of itself? What's that look like?
Yeah, so it was like never at the start. It was like never about making money or anything, and because I had a few other things going, and then it was kind of like, oh, this is costing me money. I wasn't expecting that, because you're paying for, like Calendly, you're paying for Zoom, you're paying for this, you're paying for that, you're paying the platform, and it all starts adding up. And I was like, okay, I need to change that model. And what happened is, when I was doing the Toastmasters, I was doing a load about podcasting once I had started it. And loads of people started because of that, and I was helping a lot of people and everything. And then there was other people just reaching out to me, and then I thought, there's loads of people, just going, hey, you're a podcaster, I want to start a podcast, and yeah, I'll come along. And it was like, they weren't really, they wouldn't say, I'm going to take you for dinner or let's go for drinks because you've just shared all your knowledge with you. It was like nothing. And I was like, all right, they're not respecting me for what I'm bringing to the table. So I said, I'm going to actually start coaching and offer people. So when people reach out, I go, yeah, I've got this. Look, I've got a webinar that's like free if you want to have a look, and you can kind of start delving deeper. There's a course, or I can do the coaching. And that started working. Then it was kind of like, there was no more of this, I'm a charity case where I'm actually helping everybody for nothing. Like, it'd be different if somebody was broke. I'll always help somebody because I know what it's like to have nothing. But no, a lot of these people, they could have easily paid. So that was that. And then it was like, there's a lot of opportunities because like what you're doing, I think, is probably the best way. Is like you're offering your own services, you're saying your own services, you're saying the web design and everything, and you can get clients from that, and then just extract people, little shorts and stuff like that, and just have the show underneath it. But you're constantly promoting yourself, and I think that's the most important thing, is your own services. And that then will actually start generating income. But like then you can, I've got clients where I'm actually helping them get on shows, and that's a way of doing it. And like what I've learned is a lot of people hate social media. So I actually can take control of the whole social media thing and do everything. The YouTube, the Instagram, the Facebook, and everything. And like people are like, yeah, I hate that. And plus, because I'm kind of so tough-skinned, there's abusers out there. You probably don't get it with what you're doing, but I mean, even in the Polish, like some of the stuff that people write, you're like, and I just, you either report it or you delete it, but you don't engage. And I've seen a lot of podcasters or YouTubers, and they're doing well, and then they start engaging with these people, and they just pack in because they're like, instead of concentrating on the 95% of people that love them and just give them thumbs up and just are happy with their content, one person says something nasty and that's where their energy goes. And it's like, so I kind of help people with that. Is like,
that's a lesson.
It's don't give them the energy. Like, I mean, even if you look at the profiles of most of these people, they have no friends, they don't have a picture, they're hiding behind a screen. And if you've time to be abusing people, there's something wrong with you anyway. So just kind of go, all right, that guy needs professional help, or that girl needs professional help. I'm not engaging in that, and don't give it energy. So when I'm doing that for people, that it does affect, because there's very few that actually can not let it affect them. So I think they're happy, and then they get to do their own work and concentrate on what's important to them.
I think what's interesting is, and I've talked to other podcasters. I haven't had other podcasters on this program. Is that the way you monetize, a podcast? Sometimes a lot of us, I think, start out not even thinking about that. Like, it's it's a topic we're passionate about. Something we, like for me, it just happens to be business. I love talking about business, and I would, I talk to friends about business all the time. Why not hit record? And and that's kind of was the premise and how this all started, and went from there. But it's also that how you monetize it. It's not just about getting sponsors or getting having advertisements in the middle of being affiliate and doing all that other stuff. You can do that. Some people do that, and they're very successful doing that, and as their podcast grows. But for many of us, it's kind of that union between what you do, your services, and for me it's web design development, but that's kind of becomes my sponsor. Exactly. And I get to thread that in here and there. I just talked about it now. Hey, by the way, but I don't force it. It's just who I am. It's the host. This is what he does, and that helps me, and I can ask, bring on guests that we may or may not do business, but it doesn't matter. But the opportunities are there, and it's just an organic, natural thing. And others do the same. Whether you're a coach or that can be kind of threaded into the content you make. I talk to people sometimes. I'm like, I could have done a podcast. Because I'm a web developer, right? I could have done a web development podcast, talk about code all day. But also the other reason I did do business is because who's my who's my audience? It's going to be business people. Who do I do work for? Business people. Agencies. Who do I partner with? Agencies. Who do I have on my podcast? Other 8 people with agencies. So it's that kind of sync there that's a good thing. So yeah, I think it's that passion too, and starting things like you have. I love how you like your podcast. That every single podcast you have started and that you talked about, it made sense. Like, oh, he's into meditating. And now, of course, he's going to have a meditation podcast. I don't know about the crypto one, though. I'm a little, but no, and that's finding those things that you want to learn maybe more about too, and get better at and build that community. But it's also you're leveraging all the people you know in those realms. So it's very cool.
No, like you build up fantastic relationships, and I mean, as you say, like there's people that I've had on the show that actually become clients, and it's like now what I've learned as well is I never pitch it, they just kind of say it, but I have in my form, I use a Google form and I have it. Hey, you interested in sponsorship? You interested in this? You interested in that? And they all just hit yes. Oh, great. I just send them the offer. Makes it easy. You're not even trying, and it's like, but I think, just because I've got them in the top 0.5% and stuff like that, and had millions of downloads, it kind of helps as well to kind of go, all right, he must know what he's doing, rather than just kind of winging it. So, but
right, you're building your authority too. Yeah. I mean, like, and you specifically helping other people with podcasts and stuff. I mean, obviously, when you have lots of podcasts and you have a lot of success, people are going to be like, that's an expert I want to learn from and to help me out. So it's good stuff. Okay, so let's land here. We're landing now. So from your experience now, you've been doing podcasting for 6 years. You're creating your 6th podcast. If you were going to kind of look at that entire journey, that experience, like what is one piece of advice that you think that every podcaster could that would help them stand a better chance of succeeding with their own journey in podcasting? Is there something that stands out?
I think it's actually love what you're doing. Don't do it for money. I want to be a millionaire. I want to get this. I want to make them. Like when you love what you do, even because there's some people, they don't even connect their business to it. It's just a passion that they have, and they might be even working for a corporation, and it's like the weekend they do it. So I would say love what you do, and then if it builds and is successful, and like a lot of people as well, they're trying to look for the secret sauce. Oh, what can I do? Like everyone is reaching out to me. There's people writing books that are contacting me and everything. They're all like, what is it? They think it's like one magic button. And like there is a few things, and one I would say is just have a fantastic interview. Like like we had the chat before we done this. Like most people don't do that, and like you listed all the different things. We had an engaging conversation. A lot of podcasters don't. They just show up, and it's like if you're just showing up, you're not giving your listeners the best value. So like I prepare, from 1 hour plus for the different things. I'm checking their social media. I'm looking at different things. My questionnaire is different because there's different platforms you can get the guests from, and you kind of read through the thing. But like my questionnaire asks kind of a few questions, and what would you really like to talk about? Or I'd say, if you have a book, send me the book. I kind of go, I used to buy the book, and I thought, why am I paying for a book? Send me the book. I don't like digital books posted to me, and I get a lot of books, and I love reading. I read 100 books a year, so it's like kind of getting that and just making sure that you have a decent conversation, which in turn people are more inclined to share, or even if they don't, they just come back. And the other thing then is that I would say would be very helpful is like go to groups. So like business groups would be good for you. So for example, the Polish podcast, I'm in Polish and Foreigners, in Foreigners in Łódź, Foreigners in Warsaw, Foreigners in Poland, Polish in New York, Polish in Chicago, Polish in UK. But they're groups that are people, because a lot of the Polish, they married, the locals, and then they want them to learn a bit of the language when they're coming back to meet the parents, or sometimes the both moved and they just changed the language, so the kids don't really know Polish, and it's just going to the groups that will actually reach your audience. Whereas a lot of people, they just post it and they think that's it. So what I actually would say is you spend a lot of time preparing it, and then you just blast it out, and then you're on to the next one. You have to, create the shorts, put them out in the different thing, engage. Like, a lot of people outsource the engagement thing, unless you know somebody really gets it, or you sit down with them and they understand how you're doing, because I know it's time consuming as well. But like, if somebody is writing and it's a potential client, they're not at your level, and you want to outsource that. So you have to be kind of making sure something doesn't slip through, or that they know, hey, if they're unsure, they send it on to you. But some people, they just outsource everything, and they could be missing potential clients because they're writing to them, and just to make sure that you're watching everything. And it's a case of, like, you're doing that, you're having, you're like, I've got the ring light, I've an LED light, making sure you have a good camera, obviously the sound, you're just making sure, and all these different things. Like, I made mistakes at the start, like nothing like this, and I listened to the sound at the start and I cry, like, I go, oh my god. Like, say the Polish one, it was so bad, and it's, I don't know, it's like, last I looked, it was like 35,000 on episode 1, and they're still listening to it, like. So it's kind of like, try to do it good from the start. But even if you don't, if you're like, you make a mistake, like, you've checklists, something happens, people with fans and stuff like that, you just build it in, and you just, made a mistake on that one, but you learn from your mistakes, and you just try to constantly improve. You're watching, different things, you're getting the tips. So, and that's why, like, with the new one, it's like, I want to get the tips from everybody. I want to find out, okay, what exactly, like editing, I use Audacity, and it's a cut and paste, and I'm not going deep. I heard a guy for about 4 hours show me how to do this at the start, and I just continue doing that. But I know that I could probably even up it again, because I'm hearing all different systems, and just get people to come in and share that with you. And it's like, it's you're learning as well as the listeners, and that's kind of the plan. Just pay attention to what's going on, and what's the passion with the people that I'm kind of coaching and stuff like that is, like, we all know the media is corrupt. Like CNN, BBC, RT in Ireland, they're all spewing lies. Whereas, like, people, like, and it's passed it out, like, just people are listening to podcasts to get proper news that's not censored, and it's not regurgitated. They're all saying the exact same thing, in all the different channels. And when you see that, and especially if somebody's doing, like, I've got one client now, he's going to be doing about, like, addictions. He's an alcoholic, he's off like 15 years, and he's helping people, and that gives you just love working with stuff like that. That they're helping people. So, like, when you can do something, if you've got a skill set and you say, I can help someone do that, whatever it is, why not create a podcast and just help? That's at the core of it too, right? You're like, that's what are we here for? To help people, to have those conversations, and to have that forum to be able to discuss things that you're not going to read somewhere else, or it's I think the underlying thing there is just caring about your podcast. I think about, like, what you were talking about, how you do the upfront work, finding that guest and do a little research up front. Like my intro call, I know not everybody does that, but I love to do that because I build that connection right away, and I'm able to kind of feel out, what this person's all about, their personality, and ask those questions right there, and get that feedback right away. And it's just something part of my process, and the learning too. I always be learning. No, but I like that. Yeah. There's a few do that. I don't kind of to time constraints, but I've realized, like, by you doing that, like when we jumped on the call straight away, we connected a lot better than, sometimes it's great. I mean, I get on to people, but it takes a while. You get warmed up and you connect, but you've bypassed that, and so you're making the connection better to in turn make the interview better. Yeah, I don't want to show up like, and I've never seen you before. We're going to have a podcast. Oh my God, he's so ugly. I hope I like you. Like, man, that guy's, I don't know what's wrong with this dude. Anyway, so, Roy, it was great having you as a guest. Hopefully I can have you back again someday. There's such a massive, there were so many just things I could have, dove into there in your story. You got some great experience, and I'm looking forward to following you too. I want to check out some of your podcasts, especially the one on meditation. I'm into meditation a little bit, so I may be checking that one out for sure. Okay. But anyway, but thanks again for joining us. Until next time. Thank you very much, Matt. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it.
If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you are interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.